Our story begins in the Shengguanzong sect, a place filled with cultivators and towering buildings. Suddenly, the disciples are startled by a strange noise echoing down the street. At that moment, a guy in purple appears, dragging a kitchen cleaver on the ground like it's a totally normal thing to do. The extras comment that they've never seen someone walking a kitchen knife like it's a pet. Others whisper that he's crazy and that he's always saying everyone else's cultivation method is poisonous. But the MC thinks they only say that because they don't know the real dangers of this world. His name is Chi Yuan, and he's a cultivator from this sect, but in reality, he's a transmigrator. Because of this, the guy can see information about people and has discovered that their cultivation is dangerous. After transmigrating, he gained this ability to see notes on everything, and it's been causing him some trouble. So Chi Yuan laments that in this world, once you reach a certain level, you become food for some bizarre creatures. In the midst of his thoughts, our protagonist remembers something super important he forgot. It dawns on him that today is the disciple selection day, and he dashes off so he won't be late. Arriving at the Shengguanzong sect's main hall, everyone is already gathered for the event. One of the elders asks why Chi Yuan hasn't arrived yet, and another says it's normal for him to be late. Apparently, he's part of a group of weirdos obsessed with something, and nobody likes to mess with them. At this, the elder gets annoyed because the senior brother is late and setting a terrible example for the newbies. But right on time, our protagonist jumps in, and the old man grumbles for them to start the disciple selection. Basically, today is the day the 5 peaks choose their new members, and only the best are selected. The master then introduces the top-ranked students who could become future successors. Next, he announces Kuang Ren from the Duzan Peak and our protagonist, Chi Yuan from the Kisei Peak. Also introduced are the waifu Shu Yi from the Wanfa Peak and Zhu Ying from the Divine Medicine Peak. Suddenly, a show-off introduces himself as Kang Fulu, and the MC's vision says he loves being the center of attention. On top of that, he's the son-in-law of the sect leader and the head disciple of the Wuguang Peak. In other words, he's a big deal. With that, the new disciples bow in respect, greeting their superiors. Kang Fulu immediately spots a boy with a light spiritual root and decides he needs to recruit him. So he asks how they'll make their choice, and the redhead tells him to stop stalling and get on with it. However, the green-haired guy says his master ordered the Kisei Peak to choose first this time. He even teases that there are rumors about the other peaks mistreating the MCs, so Kang Fulu gives in. However, the show-off thinks that since Chi Yuan doesn't know the talents, he won't pick the best disciple. Thus, Kang Fulu approaches our guy and with a fake smile asks him to choose first. This gets the newbies super excited, since the Kisei Peak has few members and tons of leftover resources. The protagonist then thinks he needs to pick someone good to boost his peak's popularity. He starts analyzing the first candidate and gets all nervous, hoping the guy doesn't notice anything. But his ability shows that the boy has a hidden motive for joining the sect, so he's out. Qiwan moves on to the next one, while Kang Fulu boasts thinking the MC has a terrible eye for talent. The next one is an ordinary girl, but her special constitution is attracting a dangerous demon. The protagonist thinks the girl's situation is too risky for his peak and decides to pass on her too. Next up is a guy with main character vibes who has an ancient soul and was dumped by his fiancée. Another candidate has the body of a man but the heart of a woman, and our MC immediately writes him off as a creep. The following one is a guy with 3 legs, and our hero finds this even more bizarre than the last one. The last candidate doesn't even have a proper description, leaving Chi Yuan speechless at all the weirdness. The guy sighs because this sect is full of strange people, and he's gotten burned before for exposing a spy. Trying to console himself, the MC thinks that if everything is a problem, then nothing is really a problem. Watching the scene, the green-haired guy wonders if Chi Yuan is going to reject everyone again. Ignoring everyone, the protagonist simply walks past the candidates without choosing anyone. Just then, a pink-haired waifu appears, and the MC's vision says she's mysterious and has a crush on the peak master. The protagonist immediately sees her as a rival for the master's affection and thinks he needs to get rid of her. But the girl kneels and introduces herself as Jiangling Su, begging for a chance at the Kisei Peak. The other extras are shocked to see that our guy even has a fan. The MC is suspicious of the girl's attitude, and the system identifies her as a descendant of the Jiang clan. In her thoughts, the girl reveals that she would have snubbed the sect before, but today she needs to join them. It all started a month ago when her bloodline awakened, giving her control of the Qiankun mirror treasure. In this mirror, she saw her parents dying in battle and the world crumbling, with only the sect surviving. Apparently, the treasure showed her a vision of the future, but she can't reveal it or she'll forget everything. That's why she needs to enter the Kisei Peak, as its mysterious master seems to be the savior from her vision. The girl thinks she can take advantage of his personality and that it's worth putting up with some grief for the one she loves. With that, the waifu offers to be a pack mule to help the MC with his tasks. The protagonist is completely confused as a new system notification pops up in front of him. His vision warns him that she's the last candidate, and if he doesn't accept her, the other peaks will force a disciple on him. So he decides to accept her because being a girl, she can't compete with him for the master's attention. And so the protagonist sighs and reluctantly agrees to take the girl as his disciple. The girl thanks him all happy, thinking she convinced him, but he only accepted her because he had no other choice. That said, the protagonist announces that the selections are over and he's leaving, but the guy with glasses stops him. The green-haired guy has questions about a formula and offers a valuable spiritual item in exchange for help. The extras are gobsmacked that a disciple from the medicine peak is asking the MC for help with pills. Kui Yuan then says he's taking his pet for a walk tonight and can take a look at the matter for the guy. With the matter settled, he calls his new junior sister to leave, and the girl agrees. The two of them turn and start walking away, leaving the others behind to discuss what just happened. At that moment, the show-off Kang Fulu gets angry and asks if the guy with glasses is sure about what he's doing. Shu Ying defends himself, saying the MC is talented and that a previous conversation with him was very helpful. But the others are doubtful, and the white-haired guy says Zuji will just end up losing his spiritual item for nothing. The guy insists there's a fine line between a genius and a madman, and maybe Chi Yuan has some good ideas. Ignoring the conversation, Kang Fulu snaps his fingers with a smirk on his face to get their attention. With a sinister look, he announces that they still have serious business to attend to, and that he'll start choosing now. Seeing the guy's evil aura, the remaining candidates are completely terrified by the situation. Far away, the protagonist and his new disciple finally arrive at the Kisei Peak, a very beautiful place. The pink-haired girl is amazed by the beauty of the place and asks if that is the Kisei Peak. The pink-haired girl then asks where the master is and what he's really like. With a dreamy look, the MC says the master is gorgeous, leaving the newcomer confused by the answer. She insists on knowing more, and he says the master's body is also great, which freaks her out. Since she's a new disciple, Lingzhu asks if she can go pay her respects to the peak's leader. But Chi Yuan says no, explaining that no one can see him without reaching a certain level of cultivation. The girl is devastated because with her talent, it would take her more than 10 years to reach that stage. The protagonist brags, saying that maybe the master is afraid to see him because he's so charming. The girl makes a bored face, not believing her senior brother's audacity. At this, she remembers a rumor that the master disappeared after the MC saw him for the first time. Changing the subject, he informs her that he wasn't planning on recruiting anyone and hasn't prepared a place for her. The guy then points to a pile of straw and wood in the courtyard, leaving the waifu confused. With a smile, he asks if she's good with her hands and tells the girl to build her own hut. Lingzhu is completely frozen and in shock at the absurd order she just received. She can't believe that a noble like her will have to build a straw hut to live in. The girl takes a deep breath, trying to calm down and remember her main goal so she doesn't give up. Remembering her mission, she's filled with determination and vows to find the master capable of preventing the catastrophe. Sometime later, the waifu finishes her straw hut and is all proud of her makeshift work. Now her next step is to get closer to her senior brother, so she goes to his house, calling his name. A voice from inside the house tells the girl to come in, and she approaches the door curiously. Upon entering, she sees the protagonist holding a type of cell phone and asks if he's playing a game. Apparently, the cultivation world isn't so static anymore and now has a massive entertainment industry. There are pill betting, immortal dances, and even games that use these jade tablets as controllers. These jade tablets store various types of games, like fighting, exploration, and even farming simulators. The girl notices that the MC's tablet looks special and wonders if he's been playing all afternoon. At this, Lingzhu gets annoyed because she worked hard while he was just playing games, and she asks if he doesn't cultivate. Kui Yuan then says she doesn't understand and that he's actually cultivating with his obsession method. She thinks his obsession must be games, but that sounds more like an addiction than training. The guy notices her suspicion and, losing his patience, asks what she wants from him. The waifu says she's already built the hut and asks him to teach her the peak's cultivation technique, but he refuses. She gets upset and asks why, while thinking this might be a clue to finding the master. With a serious expression, the MC reveals that the peak's cultivation technique is poisonous and cannot be used. The girl is shocked but says she doesn't care if the technique is poisonous because she needs to train. With that, the protagonist hands her a green crystal with the modified technique, and the waifu is surprised. Lingzhu praises the guy for being able to modify techniques, but he says it's not complete yet. She freaks out in her thoughts because doing that requires a much higher cultivation level than his. The girl thanks him but warns him not to mess with the techniques as it could be very dangerous for him. Kun Bedawan gets serious and asks if she thinks everything will be fine if they don't modify the technique. With that, the girl is convinced that her senior brother has a screw loose. This only reinforces the idea that cultivators from the obsession lineage are really strange. Sitting in her new hut, the waifu decides to take a look at the technique she received from the guy. A powerful aura envelops her, and she tries to understand the quality of the technique and his modifications. She recognizes the art as a common technique she's seen in her family's library before. However, the part the MC modified seems legitimate and even well done, to her surprise. As soon as she finishes her initial analysis, the energy from the jade crystal simply dissipates. Worried, the girl decides she needs to take the technique to someone named Sister Yaya for review. Suddenly, the scene shifts to the Yuan Forbidden Zone, where a giant monster roars fiercely. Meanwhile, in the MC's game, a giant snake is brutally attacked by a mysterious warrior. With that, the creature is easily defeated, falling lifeless to the ground after getting a beatdown. This warrior is the protagonist's avatar, who brags about taking down a level 50 monster. The game is set in the Zhuanyuan Forbidden Zone, and the guy leveled up from 1 to 80 just by grinding there. He then continues his journey, slaughtering hordes of creatures with his powerful blue sword. He feels so strong that he thinks he could defeat a real-life patriarch with a single blow. With a precise strike, the avatar pierces the scales of another beast without any difficulty. Now that he's cleared the path, he says only the area's big boss is left to complete the mission. This so-called boss is a level 70 mad brush, a pretty weird item to be a game boss. This thing is a brush by day but turns into a demon at night, and its attacks were so strong the MC had to bury himself in the ground just to escape. But today is the day of reckoning, and he prepares to get his revenge on the monster, sword in hand. The protagonist charges forward, yelling for the demon not to run, because the time for payback has finally come. Suddenly, a bright light blinds him, and the guy has no idea what just happened. The flying brush hits him from behind, catching the warrior completely by surprise in the middle of the fight. The blow is a direct hit, and the sound of the impact echoes loudly throughout the game's scenery. The brush falls to the ground, drained of energy, and the MC's avatar laughs, saying the monster must be shocked. He reveals that he had already created special equipment to nullify that boss's attacks. With the situation under control, the warrior prepares to deliver the final blow with his sword. The guy then unleashes his heaven-shattering sword draw technique with absurd power. The attack is so strong that it completely destroys the cliff where the boss was standing. With the monster defeated, the MC's avatar calls it weak and receives a system notification. He receives 10 fragments of the heavenly Tao and a divine brush as a reward for his victory. As he examines the items, a strange light enters his body, leaving him stunned. The guy thinks he's now the master of the zone and wonders what will happen if he collects all the fragments. He then turns to the other item he got from the mission and picks it up for a closer look. Apparently, the divine brush can be used to write new rules, and he decides to test its power. With a lightbulb moment, the protagonist gets a brilliant idea of what he's going to write with the item. He remembers an old meme from Earth and writes that carrying a ladder grants you free passage anywhere. The MC even considers adding something about maintenance uniforms but scraps the idea and finishes. Back in reality, the protagonist gets up because it's time to meet up with the guy named Zhugi. With his kitchen cleaver in hand, he decides to take his pet for a walk while he's at it. Despite being crazy, our hero ended up starting a trend, and now several cultivators walk around with pets. At this, he sees a girl with a turtle and teases her, saying her pet will take millennia to get smart. Another disciple then asks when his pet will awaken, and the others laugh because it's just a knife. With a confident smile, the guy says, in a year at most, but maybe even sooner. The extras think he's just joking or having another one of his crazy spells. From a distance, a guy warns Zhu Jie not to be fooled by our crazy protagonist. He insists that someone so nuts can't possibly know anything about refining pills, but Zhu Jie looks thoughtful. Shuji gets annoyed and defends the MC, saying he had the guts to test a modified technique on himself. Finally, finding the protagonist, the guy with glasses approaches for the long-awaited meeting. He apologizes for being late, saying he was helping his master refine medicines. He then hands over a pill formula he found in a cave and asks for our hero's opinion. The MC's vision analyzes the formula and suggests a few ingredient swaps to improve its effects. The guy in purple repeats the suggestions and the other extra gets mad, accusing him of talking nonsense. But Zhuji becomes thoughtful about the suggestions and remembers the payment he promised Qi Yuan. He takes an item from his robes and hands the protagonist a purple jade crystal bamboo. This spiritual material has several grades, and the higher the grade, the better the results. Although it's low grade, this item is still very expensive for most disciples. Kuai Yuan refuses to trade for a higher grade item, and Zhuji laments the guy's situation. He says that if the MC hadn't offended the master, he would already have better materials and be stronger. Shugo also reveals that the Kisa Peak's master is so respected that even the Divine Light sect fears him. After all, Ruan Yiki has been the peak master for 1,000 years, and they suspect she's a powerhouse at the Divine Child stage. A 1,000-year lifespan means the master is a walking treasure, and anything from her is valuable. Shugi doesn't understand why the MC angered such a powerful person and suggests he apologize. But the protagonist gets angry, saying he did nothing wrong and that he's going to tell the truth. He then declares that everyone is afraid of Ruan Yixi, but he isn't, because she is his. Before he can finish the sentence, the guy with glasses panics and covers the MC's mouth to shut him up. Desperate, Zhuge says goodbye, claiming he's going to study the formula, and runs off with his friend. Back at the Divine Medicine Peak, the other extra questions why he asked Qi Yuan for help. Shugi cuts him off, saying the transaction was with the MC and that the guy has nothing to do with it. The extra says he's just worried about wasting materials, but Yuji tells him to shut up. The green-haired guy then states that he's going to refine the pill and compare the results to be sure. Far away at the Keys Peak, our hero finally returns to his humble abode. After dinner, the protagonist decides it's time to get back to playing his favorite little game. With sparkling eyes, he prepares for another intense and addictive gaming session. Suddenly, he's surprised to see that someone he knows has just logged into the game. The story takes us to a flashback of when the MC was in a hospital and picked up the game item for the first time. He was surprised to discover that the object was for chatting and already had a friend added. The girl talked in a strange way and he figured she was some rich beauty, so he decided to tease her. Our hero ended up finding the girl's annoyed reaction pretty cute and continued chatting with her. With no friends in the hospital, she was his only company, but one day his friends list vanished and he lost her. Back in the present, the protagonist gets emotional about finding her again and doesn't know what to say. Without thinking too much, he decides to send a simple message asking if she's there. The scene then shifts to the South Qian Kingdom, where a blonde empress is in her palace. In a cold tone, the woman orders all her handmaidens to leave the hall, and they obey immediately. Alone in the grand hall, the empress remains silent, looking very thoughtful about something. This is Jin Li, the empress of the kingdom, and she laments that she can't even trust her closest servants. She inherited the throne at age 7, and since then, her kingdom has been in crisis with invasions and enemies. To make matters worse, a minister is plotting against her, and her strongest aunt has been gravely injured. With hatred in her eyes, the empress suspects that Minister Sima Ting was responsible for the attack. To clear her mind, the woman decides to take a bath and think of a way to solve her problems. Relaxing in the tub, the empress sighs with exhaustion after a long and stressful day. Suddenly, she feels something vibrate and wonders if it's her Linglong Jade, the mysterious treasure. The Linglong Jade is a legendary treasure that exists in natural pairs scattered across the world. Whoever possesses one of these jades can communicate with the other person, no matter the distance. A year ago, the Empress found the treasure in her vault and decided to take it out of curiosity. With the jade in hand, she felt as if the object was calling her somewhere. That's how she met a fun person who made her feel less lonely in the palace. With the MC's message in hand, she replies that she was worried because he disappeared for half a year. The woman gets out of the bath and asks where he's been all this time without a word. She says she wanted to invite him to hunt monsters but couldn't get in touch with him. The Empress gets worried and asks if the place the guy was at was very dangerous. The protagonist laughs and says the monsters are just experience packs and invites her to play together. The woman understands the invitation as a call to hunt demons and becomes thoughtful about the proposal. But she sighs sadly because she needs to solve her problems at home and can't leave. Our hero is surprised and asks if she's so busy she doesn't even have time to play a game. Relaxing in her bath, the Empress asks where our hero is. He replies that he's been in the Yuan Forbidden Zone and is now heading to the Yiguan Zone. The Empress is shocked because those are 2 of the 4 Great Forbidden Lands. On the moon-gazing continent, humans and demons live in a constant state of war. But above them are the legendary Forbidden Zones, which are even more terrifying. These places are so dangerous that not even demon emperors dare to enter them. She knows the zone is in her kingdom and wonders if the guy is being serious or just messing around. The protagonist says he doesn't need to go anymore because he's already cleared the entire zone and is exhausted. The Empress is completely confused and wonders what he means by cleared everything. She reflects that the demons there are strong and that few geniuses have ever made it out alive in history.